Hey guys, welcome to a theory video. It's been quite a while. I've also gone a little low key. I'm just downstairs on the couch, but I promise you the content's good. Okay, the guitar is in tune and the content is good. Basically, if I have someone come to me that wants to learn their guitar theory, this is the exercise I give them, and it, in a very practical way, covers everything to do with diatonic playing, which is based on one key. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we'll teach you how all the chords, all the modes, all the shapes, how it all fits together in this exercise. Now, I'm not going to say it's a simple exercise. You're going to learn it in 2 minutes and all that stuff, because all of that stuff's rubbish. Even the guys that have come up with those things and tell you this system's the best or that system's the best, they've probably spent years coming up with that system. So it's extremely ironic for anyone to tell you that there is a quick and easy way to learn this stuff. There's not, but this exercise, this is the one that I give students that come to me, okay? It's also how I prepare myself to play over different styles. Like if I'm gonna be playing jazz and swing stuff, in a particular key that I'm not great at or don't love, I'll work this exercise in that key, which I'll get into in other videos. Today, I'm just gonna show you the exercise. So, the exercise looks like this. I'm going to play through the whole exercise, and then you can choose to stick around and I'll walk you through it. Or you might decide it's not for you. It might be too much work, but hopefully not. You can get the tabs for this on my Patreon. And I'll also say that it applies to any style, but with blues we tend to use pentatonics, and that's kind of a law unto themselves. So it's almost like it doesn't really necessarily apply that well to blues. But it applies very well to everything else and simple music theory. And then the other thing is that if you're playing jazz, it's pretty much becomes about putting notes in between everything we're going to learn today. So that's what I would call chromaticism. But aside from those two elements, everything else is covered, and you'll understand. So I'm going to play in the key of G because visually it's a great starting point, because as we work up the neck, we really understand where that first position is. Plus, every shape is movable. If we start in E and we play open, it's not movable. So that's a little bit of a problem. So we're not going to worry about that right now. So here we go. This is the routine I get students to do. So I'll say we play a G major chord, just like that. Okay. Then we'll play a G major 7 chord like this. But a lot of us guitar players, we don't use that voicing, especially us. If you're playing jazz and swing, you probably won't use that. We'll use the shell voicing, so I'm going to show you that as well. That's in the transcription. Okay, so we're blocking the 5th string for that jazzy sound, and we've really reduced that chord to a couple of notes. So that's our G major 7, and it's built off the first part of our major scale from G. Okay, now what I'll do then is say, now we play the arpeggio that matches. So this is a G major 7. And then the scale that fits across that whole part of the fretboard is what we call an Ionian, G Ionian. Okay, so now you have, if you come across a major 7 chord, and it happens to be the root chord of the key, you have all the chord tones in that exercise, in the arpeggio, and you have all the 7 notes that we use played twice through in that box position. Okay, now that might not sound that interesting, or maybe it sounds great, I'm not sure, but it will start to make sense as we go along. What if we see a minor chord? Okay, so it could be the 2nd chord of the chord scale. So the next chord we would use in G major, from the next note in the scale is A, would be an A minor chord. Okay, so we can play the full A minor chord. We can play an A minor 7 if we lift up our pinky for that bar chord. And the jazz voicing for that, or swing voicing, would be from the 5th fret here like this. And we block that 5th string, and we're just on 5 and 5 like that. Now that's just the chord that we play from there. The scale that we play from there, or the arpeggio I should say, would look like this. So that is a minor 7 arpeggio. Again, that's in the transcription. I'll walk you through all of this at the end. The scale that we play here, though, is actually a Dorian scale. Okay, that's just, again, these are all the notes in G, but we're starting from A. We've played that chord, we've played the arpeggio, but you'll notice that the scale here goes like this. We can go up to the 7 and the 8 if we like. Okay, so that's what happens when in the key of G we play over the second chord. That's the arpeggio that we get, and then the scale that we get to keep in the key of G. So this is what I mean by diatonic. We aren't leaving the key of G. You'll look on the transcription and you'll notice that there's only an F sharp in the actual notated part throughout. It's basically like the key of C, but with an F sharp. But anyway, you don't even need to know that. Just knowing that this is the shape and these are the scale it fits over it is very useful. Here's the thing where it gets a little complicated. We move up to B minor. Okay, knowing that it's the third chord in the key of G, G, A, B, tone, 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 tone. All right, it means something interesting here. So watch this. We play the B minor chord. We play the B minor 7. We can do the jazz voicing, no problems. But the scale looks different to what we played on the A minor chord. The scale actually looks like this. And we can continue up. Oh, sorry. Even I make mistakes sometimes, a lot of the time. Yeah, so it should have been that note there. So this scale, very similar to the scale that we played here, but it's actually called a Phrygian. Okay, we call that the Phrygian scale. So again, all in the key of G, but when we play that third chord, happens to be a minor chord, that's the scale. But here's the crazy thing, the arpeggio is exactly the same as what we played from A minor 7. Apologies, I should have actually played that arpeggio first, and then expressed to you that the scale is slightly different though. So this is where it gets really confusing, because you'll see on a swing chart, or even if you're playing rockabilly or psychobilly and you get a minor chord, which of these scales can you use, which of these modes? And this is the thing that confuses a lot of people, but it really doesn't need to. If you work through this exercise, you start to get a sense of which chord you are playing. Am I playing the second chord as a minor or the third chord as a minor? Okay, so I've sort of come up with a way of naming them. That is our Ionian major, Dorian minor, Phrygian minor. Okay, and the next chord is again a major chord just like the G, so C major, or we can do C major 7 like that. Okay, or we can use the jazz voicing. Okay, and then so the actual arpeggio looks exactly the same as what we did from the original chord in G. Okay, but this time the actual scale is called a Lydian. Okay, it has a different sound against the C than what we're hearing in the G, because we're not in the key of C, we are still in the key of G. We are not leaving the key of G, okay? So when we play over that C chord, we know the arpeggio is the same, but the actual scale, which is a bit more intricate, is what we call a Lydian. Okay, so I like to refer to that as the 4 chord, okay, but it's the Lydian major, okay? Because yes, it's a major chord. Do we just play a major scale over that? Well, you could, but actually, if you want to stay in the key of G, no, we use a slightly different scale, which again, it's transcribed. I'm going to walk you through it shortly. The next one, D7, or sorry, a D chord, that's also a major chord when we play it as a regular major chord. But when we play it as a 7 chord, it ends up having a flat 7 where the other chords don't. It's a different chord, okay? So it's a unique chord. Whereas the major, we see a repetition of, major 7, the two minors look the same, okay, whether they're minor 7 or just a regular minor chord, but the D chord here is unique. That is like a major chord, but we lift that completely and we get that, okay? So this is called a D dominant 7, okay? And the jazz voicing of that looks like this. Okay, so 10, 10, and 11 blocking the 5th. So this is a dominant 7 chord, all right, in a jazzy way. The scale that we play with that, the arpeggio is unique. This time we go here. Okay, and the scale is called the Mixolydian scale. Again, this is all keeping in G. So with this one, the arpeggio is unique because it's the 7 that's affected. It's a flattened 7 compared with a major. So when we play the arpeggio in G, if we flatten the 7, it would look like that. We don't want to do that right now because we're staying in G, but when we do it from the D chord, we need that note there to remain in the key of G. And so we get this dominant 7 arpeggio or Mixolydian scale. But we don't actually have to call this chord, we don't really have to call it the Mixolydian major, because if we play it as a major chord, yes, we might call it as a Mixolydian major, but if we're playing it as a dominant 7, it's the only time we see a dominant 7 occur in the chord scale. Okay, you can go back and check out my videos on chord scales, they would be very useful, but let's keep rolling along. So the next one is E minor. Okay, we've got the E minor chord, E minor 7, all the same, the jazz version of it, all the same. Okay, but the scale is the familiar and friendly relative minor, which looks like this. Okay, again, in the transcription, you'll see that that all tabbed. So what's interesting about this one, we've also, the arpeggio is the same as all the other ones. Every time you see a minor 7, the arpeggio is the same. So I practice all of these things. I go, you know, chord, okay, the different types of chords, and then the arpeggio, and then the scale. So this is the 6th chord in the progression, and we can see the arpeggio and the scale that matches at that point when you're working in the context of a major scale. Okay, so the last one is the F sharp minor 7 flat 5. This you won't see commonly. Okay, I'm not going to play it. We'd play it up at the 14th fret right before we return to the root note. Instead, I'm going to do that right back at the 2nd fret, just like that. Okay, and we actually play this chord. So it's the reason we play this chord. Now we could play it as an F sharp minor 7 without the 5th, because that would actually look like this, because we need this note to stay in the key of C, but we can't play the C sharp that makes it a regular minor 7, so it ends up looking like this. That sounds very muddy. Okay, sounds like death metal. If you want to play death metal, use that one. If you want to play anything else, this one's probably better. 2, 2, 2, and 1, skipping the 5th string. Okay, so the scale and the arpeggio that we get like with this are both quite unique, and this chord is also unique to one key. Okay, we don't see 2 minor 7 flat 5 chords in the one chord progression. Okay, we play the arpeggio, looks like this. Always have to think about that one. And then the scale, okay, we finish there, and we can go up to there. Guess what? Looks exactly like a G major scale, but we start from one note below. So this exercise ties together each position with a chord, with the necessary shape to remain in the one key of our starting point, but also illustrates how the actual chord tones, which are the notes in the arpeggio, are pretty consistent between the major and the minor chords. It's the little intricate details that make the modes different, essentially. Now, how can you use that? If you write a song in the key of G, but you start from any of those various points, that mode becomes very relevant, and anything you play against that chord in the key of G will have a different flavor. So I didn't want to get into that too much. It's more about the exercise. So there's also a root 5 version of this, which I'm going to do in another video, where we look at all the chords from here. So if we were in the key of G, we'd be starting C here, and we'd be trying to recognize the notes that we'd play over that chord. The thing is we end up just using parts of the same scales that you've just learnt, all the shapes I'm about to walk you through, because they're in there anyway. So I thought, well, save that for another video. I'll walk you through all of these right now, so you can practice them whether you have that transcription and whether you're a member or not, because obviously members can get that transcription on the Patreon. So let's go through that really quick. So what I'm going to do is just call out the fingers, and I'll let you know if I have to change lanes, but I'll pretty much stay in position for most of them, and except for where's necessary. So this is how we do it. We play the G major chord, so we're going 3, 5, 5, 4, 5, 5. Okay, and then if you want to do the major 7, we go 3rd fret, pinky on the 5th there, 2nd finger on the 4th there, 3rd finger there, just like that. Okay, and then if we want to do the jazz voicing of that, we just get rid of the pinky, block the 5th string, there we go. There's one more chord I put in the transcription, which is the G6 chord, and that's another lovely major chord we can play, which goes 3rd fret there, skip the 5th string, play the 2nd fret there, put your pinky on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and there we go. Okay, we've got that. This lovely G6 chord, great for swing and jazz. If you see something that is asking you to play a major chord, that's a great chord for that. Okay, so this tutorial today is particularly useful if you want to get into that stuff. Now, over that chord, you could play this arpeggio. So 3rd fret, 2nd fret on this string, 5th fret, we're on the F sharp, the 7 there, and we're back to the root note here. That's 5th fret, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. And we do it backwards. I'll let you work that one out, okay? So then we move up to A. Did I play the scale? 3, 5, 2, 3. Let me play the scale as well. 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 3. Okay, pinky, 2, 3. So I'm talking you through the frets there. 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 3, 5, 2, 3. Okay, and then you can work it out backwards. That's a great exercise for you to really lock that down, is make sure you can play it backwards without me showing you. It is in the transcription though. Maybe try and ignore that and work it out if you can get the transcription. So moving up here, we play the minor chord. We've got 5th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, barring right across. Use the inner side of your finger, okay, and sort of roll back a little bit. You might get a bit more power in your barring, okay. If we lift up our pinky, we reveal that note, gives us our minor 7, just like that, okay. There's one other chord, as well as the jazz voicing as well, which is like 5, 5, 5, blocking the 5th string, just like that. And then what we do here is we just lift up the 3rd finger and play the 4th fret there if we want this minor 6 chord, which is a really lovely chord, okay, unique to this position, because in Dorian we have a note there that in context sounds quite nice against the beginning note of that position. So that's called a minor 6 chord. Okay, now the arpeggio for this goes fret 5, fret 8, fret 7, fret 5, fret 7, fret 5, fret 5, fret 8, and fret 5. And then we can do it backwards. Okay, if you learn it upwards and then track it backwards, you'll cement it in. I'm being a little cruel, but it's probably, you know, being cruel to be kind. You'll be able to work that one out and remember it that way. So the mode that we play here, or the actual scale that fits into this point, goes 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5. And we can go 7 and 8 if we want to round up the top end of that scale. Up to you whether you reach back, stay there for a little bit, or whether you slide back, slide back. Alternatively, you could also reach that note there, and then same thing here on the 4th string. So 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 5, etc. This is a great and then you can hear how that resolves beautifully back to a G major 7, because our ear kind of understands that those notes relate well to the root note there, the good old G. So, okay, now the cool thing is when we come up to B, the main chords I showed you, B minor, same as what we did with A minor, but we moved it up too. So we played B minor, lift to get the B minor 7, okay, and then the jazz version, the dead 5th string. The arpeggio is the same. exactly the same, and we're still staying in the key of G, which always kind of amazes me. You know, in the minefield of notes, most of these arpeggios somehow navigate through without hitting the wrong ones in quite a uniform fashion. So A minor 7 is exactly the same shape as B minor 7, just starting from the corresponding root note. The scale here that we play, the actual mode at this point, goes from B, so 7, 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10, okay, the 7 being the root note. So, alright, and then obviously learn it backwards as well. And then that's what happens over this chord here is that shape, which is different to what happens over the A minor. Okay, because the A minor in context gives us a different flavor set. So that's really, you know, this is really useful. So if you're playing over a jazz chart and you see an A minor and you know the song's in the key of G, you've now got a whole box area to work out of that's gonna, you know, give you that context. Okay, so after B minor we get C. This is the Lydian, the major Lydian position. Okay, so we play all the same chords as we played for G. So we can play C major 7, C major 7 like that, or a C major 6. The arpeggio is the same, but the mode here is what we call a Lydian. You actually just played through it a second ago when you did that shape, but we dropped the 7th fret. So we go, obviously not when we're utilizing it for improvising, but just for the context now, we'll start on the 8. 8, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 7, 8, 10, 7, 8. Okay, and we can go up to the D there, just like that. Okay, so I see this lesson's hit 20 minutes, but I feel like it covers so much ground, so if you're still hanging in there, great work. Now let's just quickly discuss the, well, that's it really. So that's your Lydian over that point. Only needed to really learn the mode there because the arpeggio, the chords were all the same as what we did from G. We just had to transpose them up. Okay, so have a good think about that. If you can work that out, you're well on your way to understand how to move this stuff around. Up here now at the 10th fret, well, we've got D, E, F sharp, G. Why am I getting into the notes right now? So we've got the major chord, okay? We've got the dominant 7. So this one goes 10, 10, 10, 11, 10, 10 by barring. So 10, 12, 10, 11, 10, 10. There's your D7 chord, okay? The jazz version, we're just doing 10 on the, just like that, 10 on the 6, 10 on the 4, and 11 on the 3rd string, just like that, okay? And then I don't have any, well, we can also use the 6 chord as well that we used on all the other ones, D6 chord there. The scale, the arpeggio looks like this, 10, 9, 10, sorry, 10, I keep calling this 10, 10, 9, 12, 10, 12, 11, 10, 13, 10. So slightly different to the major 7, okay, it's a slightly different scale. Now, what we do from here is the Mixolydian mode, which goes like this: 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, 9, 11, 12, 10, 12, 13, 10, okay? And of course we can go up to here if we want. Okay, now, but I'll mention one other thing. If you move that, if you play an A7, well, you know that scale. It's the same scale that matches it, okay? Because it's all in context. That's what I'm trying to create here, is that context, okay? And if you like the sound of any of those scales against the particular chord, you can make songs out of it, and all the other chords can be chords that you're able to go to, if that makes sense. Okay, anyhow, the next one is the E minor, okay? E minor 7. You've learnt all these already, the shapes, the jazz sort of version. The actual arpeggio here, same minor 7 as the others. Okay, but now we have the Aeolian scale, which is the natural minor, also known as the Aeolian. I have to think about that. So 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 15, 12, 14, 11, 12, 14, 12, 13, 15, 12, 14, 15. Again, that's the root note of the E, but we can keep walking up. And there's the actual root note of the key as well, of G. Okay, so well done, we're nearly there, we've got one more to go, we're going to come right back to here. We've got our F sharp minor 7. There's not a whole bunch of versions you can play of this chord, it's pretty specific, so that's 2nd fret, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, and 1st fret on the 2nd string. That's the main version I would use. It's actually a lovely sounding chord, very jazzy, and you can, if you don't want to play that extra note, just don't play a 5th in the chord, and what I mean by that is in the key of F sharp, the 5th would be a C sharp. Because we're using you know, the rules of G, we get that horrible C natural against F sharp. It's pretty dark sounding and muddy, so I take that, put it there as I said before, but you could always also just leave it out and use the jazz voicing of the F sharp minor. Okay, now as I mentioned before, the arpeggio goes 2 5 3 2 4 2 5 5 on the 2nd. I roll that pinky and we're on the 2nd fret there. And yeah, have a go at that one backwards. And then the scale here we get is what we call a Locrian scale. So we go 2 3 5 2 3 5 2 4 5 2 4 5 3 5 2, and we can go 3 and 5 there too to round it out. Okay, so you'll see that sometimes in a jazz standard where they might use that chord, and you can. And you know, someone recently asked, Mike Sand Channel, one of the patrons, did ask me recently how I think about this stuff when I'm doing my solo jazz gigs, and I work off a lot of this stuff. It's really, to me, it's broad and clear, and I can see what's going on and I know where I am. It's just understanding the context of the chords in the key that you're playing. So, which I tell you what, put some questions in the comments and I can address it in some other videos, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. But yeah, I wanted to make something that covers all of that stuff in a theory video, and it doesn't matter what style, it's all applicable. You'll also notice I've been talking a little bit quietly. We've got a sleeping baby upstairs. I've just been trying to keep it low key, so hope it didn't bother you guys. Yeah, fire away in the comments with some questions. Don't forget to share the video and like it, and yeah, I'll see you in the comments and I'll see you in the next video.